Hi friends, I'm Sterling Hart and this is Dreamlight, where we work with dream interpretation and using the insights in the waking life. What does it mean to dream of murder? This video is the third part of a series. In part one, we looked at murder as a symbol in dreams, and dreams where you are the bystander or a witness to the murder. In part two, we dealt with the role of the victim. Now we will look at dreams where you are the perpetrator, the killer, the murderer. In part four, we will look at murder weapons and also subliminal dreams. Being the murderer in a dream indicates that some part of you must be killed to move on. It can also mean that some part has been killed and you need to process and accept it. These two themes can be intertwined. Waking up from a dream of murder can bring a sense of guilt. Our moral sense can engage itself, especially if you are not used to remembering and working with dreams or tend to take them more literally. Remember, the waking reaction to a murder dream is important, but may not be directly connected to the issues in the dream. It can be out of proportion. A dream could be without much emotional content, yet we can react with strong emotions on waking. If you murder someone in a dream, it doesn't mean that you would, or are even capable of such an act, any more than a movie is realistic. A major theme in murder dreams is change. Try asking, what part of me or my life is changing? Where do I need to make changes in my life? What part of my circumstances are changing, or what would I like to change? What is holding me back? This is asking, what part of me is being killed, or what have I killed? Being the perpetrator involves control, power, decisiveness, or regret. It can reflect our moral sense and self-esteem. Our moral sense can be the source of symbols dealing with anger and rage. These are common reactions when our core beliefs are threatened. Our moral sense points to values and is bound up with self-esteem, what we consider right or how good a person we believe ourselves to be. Someone challenging our beliefs can threaten our identity. Feeling powerless or that we must control something can be a survival issue for our ego. Seeing or thinking someone has gotten or is getting away with something we consider to be immoral can spark rage. We may turn that inward and be self-critical about the way we feel. These issues can turn up in dreams as us murdering someone. If this theme comes up, then acceptance is essential. Fear can come in the form of being afraid of becoming or realizing that we have traits or are doing things that we are against. Accepting that we feel rage can lead us to move away from the issue to look at the emotion itself. It creates a space to ask if what we perceive is really what is going on, or is it based on past issues? Is there a threat that isn't really happening? In short, we can come to some understanding that dissipates the emotion. In dreams, murdering someone can arise when there are conflicting agendas. For instance, we believe we shouldn't get angry, but we are, and end up trying to avoid the anger rather than feeling it through or dealing with it within ourselves. And this is separate from the situation that we deal with that actually causes the anger. For example, I knew a woman who dreamed she had murdered a woman who looked exactly like her but wasn't her. In the dream, she was trying to hide the body as people arrived for a birthday party. During the dream and upon waking, she felt afraid. She didn't know any details of how she committed the murder. She didn't know whose birthday it was or who was coming to the party, but she immediately associated with a family gathering with her parents and siblings. Her family relations were not very good. They thought she was very judgmental. She rejected her family's lifestyle. She didn't do drugs or drink. The rest of the family revolved around that. They often feared getting caught or judged or losing access to their addictions. She tried to remain in their lives, going once a week. She just put up with them since it was only for an afternoon meal. They were always very negative, and so she never talked about herself. But this last time there had been an argument between other family members. She sat at the table and tried not to get dragged into it, and she realized she didn't have to put up with it. She was now debating whether to go to any family get-togethers in the future. She thought that she was busy hiding how she felt. The part of herself willing to hide was dead. The fact that it was a birthday party was related to her being reborn. She thought of herself as a victim of her family's dysfunction. Have you been disrespected or feel unfairly treated? Is there anger in yourself or others? Are you holding something back and not allowing it to live? Are you keeping someone else from doing or expressing themselves? You have power over something that you can stop. If you are the victim, this points to a changed sense of self. The cause of your death is linked to a motive. This is different from dying in a dream or having an accidental death. If you are murdered, something is wrong with it, and there is some loss of control. If you are the murderer, this would indicate that you are acting on yourself or that circumstances outside of your control force you to act. You could be afraid of losing control, acknowledging some aspect of yourself, or the opposite, you could be taking control, being decisive. Are you losing control and being manipulated, or taking control? When you are the murderer in the dream, there are two themes, a heavy one involving a violent reaction, suppressed anger or fear. The second one is a light dream, likely to be a change of perspective or values. How you look at life has ended. You or circumstances have killed it. What you think is important has changed. With this theme, other elements in the dream will point to a new perspective or change. Is the murderer cold, cool, or lifeless? Are you a cold-hearted murderer? Cold-blooded, killing time? Do you have killer instincts? My friend had a dream where he was walking around in someone else's house. In the dream, he thought that he didn't know who owned it, or if he even knew whose house it was. It was dark and vague. Then he came upon a living room with dead bodies sitting on the furniture. He saw a couch and a table with people around it. He knew he had murdered all of them. They appeared lifelike, just frozen. Then the same image appeared, and all the bodies were turned away from him. On examining the dream, he thought about a recent party. He lived near the campus of a university. He and his girlfriend had recently been out walking on the weekend, came across a party, and wandered in. He didn't see anybody he knew. The people were all younger. They wandered around for a time and then left. He felt disappointed that he hadn't met someone cool to talk to. On leaving, he said, "That was lame. I might as well have been at work." He worked as a personal computer technician for a large company. When reflecting on this, he realized he often didn't interact with anyone. Mainly, he dealt with older people that worked there. Even though several people were friendly, he didn't talk to them much. He reasoned that he saw them as workers, not people, as older and therefore not someone he would know or associate with. His insight from the dream was to be more friendly and outgoing at work. His murder was about killing opportunities to know people. This dream exaggerates the situation to bring it into focus. There are no emotions in the dream or strong ones on waking. The mass murder symbol deals with a perspective. Do you feel emotions in the dream? Do you know your motive in the dream? Was it to gain something, vengeance, or because of a righteousness or self-defense? Is there any sense of powerlessness or power in connection with the murder? What does the deceased mean to you? What was the weapon or method? Was it slow or fast? Was it painful or quick? Is it something related to you? What do you associate with the method? Did the deceased person come back in some way? Another angle on the symbol is the aftermath of the murder. In the dream, consequences and detective work may overshadow the actual murder. Guilt or fear about something can sometimes bring dreams of being chased or wanted for murder, or knowing that we did it and are trying not to be discovered. We can also find that if we are consumed with anger towards someone, or perhaps political outrage, it can stay with us, influencing our focus and decisions. When asking questions about elements or symbols in the dream, we pull up a laundry list of things that we are or have been angry about. This can be useful in allowing us to let go of the anger itself and see how it shapes us. Look for the different triggers for the anger. When looking at the murder, is the focus on the method, the body, or the consequences? Is it impersonal? Do you know the victim? Is the victim named? What do you associate with the victim? I knew of someone who dreamed that they were on the run. Someone was driving the car at night. Then the scene changed, and they were in daylight and behind the wheel. Then they came over a hill and the car was shaking, but they didn't feel it in the dream. They saw a house in front of them. They drove into it, killing someone inside. Upon questioning, they said they woke from the dream feeling angry and drank water. They associated the shift in the scene with symbolism. That it shifted from night to day meant that they could now see what was happening. They took control of the car. They didn't know who the other person was. Driving into the house meant some aspect of self. When questioned further, they were mad at their spouse because of a financial decision, but they had held back from expressing their frustration. As they understood it, they were scared about their anger. Later, they realized that the whole financial situation shook their confidence, and later still, the couple divorced. A woman I knew dreamed that she was in an airport trying to catch a flight. She didn't have a passport, but she knew she needed to get on an international flight before she was arrested. She feared that the police would beat her for murdering a little boy. She was sweaty on waking, and her mind kept asking, "What did that mean? What did that mean?" On asking questions, she said she had been considering moving to Australia to live near her daughter. It quickly unfolded that she talked to her daughter a lot, but she was always afraid of saying the wrong thing, that her daughter might cut her off. She admitted that this hadn't happened in the 20 years since her daughter had left home. After some questions, she admitted that she felt guilty. When her daughter was entering high school, the daughter had gotten through her own work an application and an admittance to a prestigious ballet school. But the dreamer and her husband had said no because it would have meant their daughter would live in another state to stay at the school. She thought she was too young to be on her own. At the time, the dreamer admitted she didn't know much about the school or what a big deal it was. It effectively killed a dream. But she now realized that her decision at the time was also about her sister. Their family was Muslim, and her sister had gotten an arranged marriage and moved to Lebanon. This had been a disaster for the sister, as her new husband was abusive and manipulative. Her sister had gotten divorced and moved back. Part of the situation was because her sister had arranged it herself, and she was naive, and the family should have stepped in or looked more closely at the situation, but instead had been proud. So these two life events were mixed together. This was why she thought a boy was murdered in her dream. Her son had been very successful in building a business on his own. She realized she had a complex of emotions: her regret over what happened with her daughter's opportunity, her feelings about what happened for her sister, her fear of taking initiative. She started to grasp what a big deal it would be to try and immigrate. She thought the passport had to do with identifying the real issues, and that she was running away, trying to escape from dealing with the past. The passport was more about where she had been. Notice in the dream there was very little about the murder. The waking reaction wasn't engaged in a moral sense, but a need to know. The dream was pointing to self-knowledge. Another reaction to slights or wrongs is vengeance. To have our say or neutralize the other person by reversing the role and making the other person a victim. The perpetrator can represent the source or experience that made us the victim initially. We may be hostile towards the people who offer us opportunities because we don't believe we deserve them or trust that they will do the right thing. We end up killing our chances. Expectations from our previous experiences colors our judgment. This can appear in dreams as murder. It is not so much a wish fulfillment or repressed emotion as a reflection on the role of a victim being turned around as a cause. As we process things, we wish to end the trauma we are carrying. It has to die, and action must be taken to deal with it. Dreams don't really give advice most of the time. There are subliminal dreams, but most dreams are psychological and simply reflect a process. As we become aware of that process, we can speed it up. We can have a habit of remembering the trauma, letting it be active in our minds. This kind of indulgence can keep it active, keep it influencing us, and make it worse. Or it can do the opposite. It can become less influential and finally be let go of. Exhausted, so to speak. As we become aware of these things, we can speed up that process or make changes as needed. Look at the context of the dream. Was the murder something you did or an identity you have? Do you know the victim? Was the victim important when you woke from the dream, or was the murder the most important thing? Is the method of murder known? In Part 4, we will examine murder weapons and the subliminal level of dreams. If you got something out of this video, please hit the like. If you want more dreams, subscribe or consider supporting the channel on Patreon with the link below. Till next time.